I'm now joined by the creator of the Fuse Ladder, Mariska Breeden, who is actually recovering from a double mastectomy and a rotator cuff tear. So now we're going to talk about how we can do traditional rotator cuff exercises using the Fuse Ladder. Let's start with proximal lines of pull. So Mariska, face the ladder, and when we're getting the straps on our clients, best to do two options. Unhook it, slide the strap up your client's leg, and then attach to the ladder. Okay, same thing on the other side, sliding the leg through and attaching to the ladder. The beauty of the ladder is as they get stronger, we can carefully slide this down to give more or less support and tension. From there, we're going to take Mariska's left arm, slide it through another strap. So these are proximal lines of pull. The first exercise is going to keep that right hand on the Fuse Ladder. And I'm going to ask Mariska to squat down and up. And I want to have Mariska keep her arm straight. So from there, the client is going to figure out the distance they need to be away from the ladder and then go right into that range of motion. The beauty about the springs is I don't have to over cue. I can ask Mariska to open up all the springs and close the springs. Once she's down at her end range of motion, I can have her hold and breathe. I can also from there ask her if she's elevating one hip or shoulder to open up a particular spring. So Mariska, can you open up that right spring a little more? Can you open up this left arm spring a little more? Beautiful, and then come all the way up. This helps our clients not overthink or overorganize and using external cues to get internal change. From here, I can carefully slide this down to Mariska's foot for our more distal. Now, Mariska has multiple sclerosis, which affects the sensation in her left foot. So the beauty of the Fuse Ladder is I'm not going to give her a distal cue on this left foot because she has no sensory input. I can still keep a proximal and distal cue at the same time, bringing her more distal in the hand. Okay? Asking her to do the same exercise again as she progresses the movement. We can also add a little flavor to this. Mariska, hold that end range and lift and lower your right heel, closing just this right spring and bringing it down. So she's trying to maintain the tension in the other springs while moving her right leg and getting a nice passive range of motion in the right shoulder, building endurance. Come all the way up. Okay? We can also remove a line of pull as our client gets stronger. So I am going to remove the line of pull from Mariska's left leg, but I'm going to keep the line of pull in Mariska's left arm. Let's go all the way up more proximal. Okay? When I decrease lines of pull, I always like to go diagonal first to help keep those diagonal lines of fascia and muscular lines more intact and give the client feedback. So Mariska, bring your hand to this strap and bring that straight down. So now we're challenging this humeral head here. I can ask this client to lift and lower her heels. And when you can hold on with that left arm. I can also ask the client to squat down, opening all springs. Now, this will get tricky because I want the client to open all the springs evenly. And now go halfway down and hold. Circle that right arm around. So she's getting feedback in her diagonal limbs as she's mobilizing this right arm, improving range of motion and strength. Come all the way up and relax. Now, the beauty of that is if you see the client struggling with the Fuse Ladder, you can come to the side of the ladder, carefully climb up, remove the spring, latch it on, lower, or you can even attach two springs at the same one. So for Mariska there, bringing the arm down. Now, with all these springs supporting my client, I can come in at the Movement Pro. Mariska, do that mini squat again. And let's do that spiral to get that rotator cuff active. I can come in and give some proximal feedback, asking her to stay inside my hands as she spirals that humeral head. I have all my hands available to me to help the client create a new movement pattern. Come all the way up. Here are some great exercises for rotator cuff injuries. I'm going to hand Mariska the spring in front, a short yellow spring. I also have just one line of pull on the other side on her opposite foot. From there, I'm going to ask Mariska to straighten and bend her right arm. So the support from the fuse ladder is giving her body feedback. She can hold on to the ladder here, and I have two hands free to give support proximal if needed. Straighten your arm. We can also challenge the humeral head up and down, and out to the side in abduction and adduction. Good, and even bring it straight down. The options are endless here. Your creativity is the only limitation. You can do anything with the arm. Then the client can take a pivot turn towards the ladder, still holding on. You don't have to change any springs. From there, we can move that arm forward and back. Observe where the client's needed. We can always add another line of connection to another limb or use our hands for feedback. Taking this into a tricep extension, circumduction, abduction, all the things needed for that rotator cuff. Then the client can take another pivot turn, and the client can then do some internal rotation and a little external. And what's great is once the spring touches their arm, they know they're at end range to give great sensory feedback. Now, if the client has any balance issues, what we can do is add another line of pull proximal to the hip, or we can give the client more sensory feedback here on their body. When dealing with any shoulder injuries, especially rotator cuff, we've got to make sure we get those shoulder blades moving. So a great way to do this is setting up child's pose. I can have the straps around my client's armpits and ask the client to sit back on their heels while holding the fuse ladder. And then come forward. So instead of letting the shoulders come up to the ears, the feedback of the straps is going to keep their arms sitting centered in the joint. One more. And come all the way up. From here, we can have the client bring their hands down to the backboard. Now, we can do this in quadruped. You can also take this up to plank, depending on where your client is. The beauty of the ladder is we have few options. Now, a lot of our clients over-elevate their shoulders, but a lot of people pull them down too much. So we can have a line of pull here to challenge them, almost feeding the bleed, pulling the shoulders forward so they have to work. Or we can simply climb up the ladder and bring the springs back a little so they're right over their shoulder joint. From there, we can have the client protract and retract the shoulder blades, getting beautiful feedback from these straps. From here, you can also add to this, having them come to a full plank, a mini push-up. The options are endless as long as the client has feedback and is able to isolate and move the shoulder blades. With any shoulder pathology, we cannot forget about the spine. So Mariska has the purple straps around her shoulders and she's going to get in quadruped position. From there, I'm going to ask my client to do a cat-cow. Now, the beauty of the straps is the clients can't take their humeral head out of centration. So I'm going to ask the client to do the cat-cow around the straps. Becomes a beautiful way to get some good information to the arms and improve the spinal mobility. We can also add a little bit of flavor to this. We can have the client crawl forward, opening up those springs, and then coming back, closing the springs. Moving forward, opening the springs, and moving back and closing the springs. We can also add a little bit of a quadruped push-up. So I can ask Mariska to bring these straps down towards her thumbs and then away from her thumbs. I can even be as simple as open the springs and close. We can go down and hold and do a cat-cow there if you really want to dial it up big. The client will feel supported by the straps and feel really strong in this modified push-up position. Beautiful. And Clients want to do push-ups and planks. Can you get into a full plank for me? And these springs give them support and feedback here. We can get them to hold and breathe. We can challenge the shoulder blade positions. And when they're ready, introduce push-ups into their program by moving the straps down to the floor and up to the ceiling. Some more exercises to improve shoulder mobility and strength. All you need to do is turn away from the ladder. We've got the shorter yellow springs, and we like to say one hook above the shoulder. But the beauty is, if you pick the wrong spring, it's so easy to make it heavier or lighter with the client not even noticing. So from here, Mariska, just move your arms forward and back. And what's great is we can stand back and observe our client's choices. We can ask our client to lean into it to challenge dorsiflexion and stay there and bring the arms down. Or we can have a client just stand perfectly upright, whatever works for them. While we're getting movement through the arms, you can keep them up there, bend the arms in, serve me a platter, make it good, thank you, and back out. We can add some circles in the arm. We can do one arm up, one arm down. We can bring them down even more, palms facing in, a little bit of gait, right? A little bit there. Options are endless. We can even take one hand away, doing a single arm. We can be here for our client's support so they can move their arm in a longer range of motion. And I even have a hand free to support their opposite limb or to give a proximal cue here.